Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of English with Chris. So if you remember, in our last video we looked at different ways of starting up a conversation or different ways of initiating a conversation. So like, hello, how are you, things like that. Of course, now that we can do that, it's quite important that we also know how to end a conversation. Sometimes we have these awkward situations where someone wants to go, but they're not really hinting at it. They're not really showing it to the other person. And maybe the other person doesn't realize. So sometimes it leads to this sort of awkwardness where you're both lingering. So you're both there waiting for someone to say goodbye, and no one does. Or eventually, but after a lot of awkwardness. So I'm going to be showing you roughly 18 different ways of saying goodbye, and also telling you if it's going to be formal, informal, who you could probably use this with, or these with. So without further ado, let's take a look at some different ways of saying goodbye. And we'll start off with goodbye. Goodbye is probably the most common, and I think you all know it already, but that's why it's a good starting point. So goodbye we can use in all situations. Um, we could probably say this is a very formal way of saying goodbye or ending a conversation, and it is, but it doesn't mean that we can only use it in formal situations. So, of course, this is probably what you want to be using with your boss. Okay, goodbye. But we can equally use it with friends, family, etc. It's fine. So don't get caught up on where you can use this particular one. But if you did want to sound a bit more informal, so something that you might want to use with your friends, you can just drop the good and we can just say bye. We also have bye bye, which, depending on how you use it, it can sound a bit babyish. It doesn't have to, of course. So I sometimes say bye bye, and I use it in a fun way. So of course, if we're speaking to children, etc., we might want to say like bye bye or bye bye, and it's something that we do. But we can also use it with people of all ages, etc. It's always going to be very informal, so probably don't use this with your boss or. I wouldn't recommend it in the workplace, but in other situations with friends, family, etc., you can still say bye bye. It's just keep in mind that it does have this connotation of being a bit babyish. So be careful how you use it, but you can use it. So maybe don't start off with it. Keep it in mind for later when you're more aware of how to express yourself. So now that we've covered goodbye, bye, and bye bye, let's move away from the byes and take a look at some different ways. So again, one that you can use in the workplace and is probably most often used in the workplace, to be honest. We can say, see you later. See you later is maybe you've been speaking to a colleague, you know you're going to be seeing them again at some point, but you have to go, you have to do something else. So you can just say, okay, see you later. Great. But actually, something to keep in mind, I know this comes up with some students of mine sometimes, is when we say things like see you later, it doesn't have to mean that we're going to see that person again later. Okay, so often we will use it if we're going to see someone again later, but it doesn't mean that we are definitely going to see that person again later. It's the same with, we also have see you soon. So see you later, see you soon. And sometimes, especially with the first one, we might even use this with someone that we've only just met. So we're not really counting on seeing them again, or not necessarily. And we might just, come to the end of the conversation and say, see you later. And some people get a little bit confused and they're thinking, okay, where will we see one another then? Where are we going to meet again? And of course, it's understandable if you say see you later. It could definitely seem like you're going to see that person again later, but it doesn't have to. So we often use it as a bit of a throwaway phrase. So just keep that in mind, unless you've already organized another meetup or another meeting, etc. Don't expect to actually see that person again later, like in the day, etc. So see you soon. We also have see you soon. You're intending to see that person again shortly. It's not going to be so long until you see that person again. Okay. And we also have talk to you later. So you finish talking for now. You know you're going to talk to that person again at some point in the future. So you can say talk to you later. And this is, this is also quite a handy one to know. This one's good. We use it quite often. So see you soon, talk to you later. These are widely used. So one that we use more often when we're running out of time. So maybe we've not even really come to the end of the conversation, but you've got to do something else, unfortunately. We can say, I've got to get going, or I must be going. And this isn't impolite. So if you say, like, I've got to get going, the other person isn't going to be offended. They know that, okay, it's with good reason. And it's just another way of saying goodbye. So if you say, I've got to get going, I must be leaving, both of these will show the other person that, okay, conversation is over. And maybe they'll say, yeah, me too. It was nice catching up, etc. Things like that. Similar to I've got to get going or I must be going, we can also say I'm off. So this one, I probably wouldn't use this in the workplace, but if you say like I'm off or I'm off now, it means that you're leaving, you're going now. Something very informal, we can also say take it easy. This one I would probably use purely with friends or family. I don't think I would use this like at university or anything like that. So I would keep this one for friends and family. And if I say take it easy, this is final. This is the goodbye. So as soon as I say take it easy, it's understood that I'm going to be going. And take it easy, it's sort of a way of saying like, take care of yourself, don't do too much work, or, look after your health, that sort of thing. So this is a nice one. Although it can sound a bit abrupt, I guess, but it's a nice one to use. Okay, so jumping back into some of the more formal ones now. We can say have a nice day or have a good day. These are ones that we would probably be using in the work environment. So if you've seen a colleague, you're going, you don't know if you're going to speak to that person again during that day, probably not. You could just say, okay, have a nice day or have a good day. and that's going to be the end of that conversation. You can also say, I look forward to seeing you again, or I look forward to our next meeting. These are also, again, like I said, very formal. These are ones that you want to be using in the workplace. Likewise, until next time, it's a little bit less formal than the others, but it carries a similar meaning to the previously mentioned ones there. Okay, next we can also say, it was nice to see you again, or it was nice seeing you. These ones are quite nice, actually. I like these ones. So it was nice to see you again. Again, it doesn't have to be used in the office, this one. You can use this one, again, with friends or family. I would probably use this one more often with friends than anyone else, to be honest. But you can definitely use it with colleagues if you've not seen them for a while, and then you see them again. So if I hadn't seen a friend of mine for, I don't know, a few weeks, and then we bumped into each other, so not literally, we're not walking along, and then suddenly like, oh no, and there's an accident that's been caused. It's bump into one another or to bump into someone. We use it to say that we've met that person again. So it could have quite a funny like mental imagery, but we're not actually bumping into anyone physically. So yeah, this one's nice. So nice to see you again. And we would probably, in this case, we would probably say that we should catch up again soon. So this isn't a way of saying goodbye, but in that situation, we would probably say something like, it was nice to see you again. We should do this again, or we should catch up again. So that's saying, you want to meet one another once more. Okay, now going to some of the more fun ways of saying goodbye or to ending a conversation. These are some more sort of informal ways of saying goodbye. So we can often just say later or laters, catch you later. And it basically just means that we're going now or I'm going now, but I will see you again at some point in the future. We need to work out when, but we will see one another again. So in this case, we would say later, laters, catch you later. Okay. So we also have an incredibly informal one here. Again, with these ones, you can sort of pick and choose if they match your personality or not. So I wouldn't necessarily use all of these myself, because I don't feel that some of these would suit me. But of course, this is the great thing about language, is especially when we get to the more colloquial, informal slang ways of saying goodbye or speaking in general, we can choose what we like to say and what we don't like to say. Of course, this has no effect on anyone else. Again, they have different ways that they maybe say something, and just because you have a different way doesn't mean that it's any better or worse than how someone else says it. It's a way of conveying our personality. So to give you an example, at school, I had a very good friend, and he had a very unique way of saying hello. So most people would say hi, hey, etc., like I covered in the last video. He would often just say howdy. So howdy gets associated with the West, like maybe like in films, how you would see cowboys greet one another, like with their hats, etc. Howdy. My friend wasn't a cowboy. He did not wear one of the cowboy hats, etc. But it was just how he liked to say hello. And of course, we all knew that it was him straight away as soon as we heard howdy. And this is the point I was making. Sometimes, even if something's not so common, it's still acceptable. So the next one that I was talking about, I digressed a little bit. It's actually peace or peace out. So some people do the sign as well if they're saying peace out. But of course, it's up to you. I don't do this one. I don't really say peace or peace out, but some people like to. So if someone says peace or peace out, they're saying goodbye. So keep that in mind. Okay, and next we have I'm out or I'm out of here. So we might use this with a friend or something, or possibly with a colleague if we're really like if we're good with that colleague, we know them well. We're friends with that colleague. So if I say I'm out or I'm out of here, it sort of implies that you've just finished your work. Maybe you've answered the last call of the day, or the clock's just struck the hour in which you finish, and you can be like, oh, finally, I'm okay, I'm out, or I'm out of here, and then you get going. So this is a time that a lot of people are excited about. Okay, so next we have I'm gonna hit the road. So again, if we think about this literally, it's very peculiar. I can understand why people might be a little bit confused by this one sometimes. But yeah, we're not actually like bending down and hitting the road. We're itchy nose. We're actually saying we're gonna get going. So if I say I'm gonna hit the road, it means I'm gonna leave now. And this is something that maybe you're in a group with your friends, etc., and you don't feel like staying anymore. You want to go home. You could then say, okay, I'm gonna hit the road now. And again, everyone would know straight away that you mean that you're going. So this next one I use a lot, and this is something that that I've noticed is very different depending on your culture or where you live. So, for example, I was born and raised in the United Kingdom, and for me, it's maybe not the most common way of saying it, but it's just something that I got used to after a while, and people do definitely use it. And it's, I will leave you in peace. So if you're talking with someone, you've come to an end, or you can maybe sense that the person wants to go or that you need to go, you can say like, okay, I'll leave you in peace now, or I'll leave you in peace, etc. We could use it also to um, intertwine it with a different one. So I'll leave you in peace. I'll get going now. Something like that. And it does not have to be negative at all. So if I say like, I'll leave you in peace, it's you're not literally like thinking that, oh no, I was such a drain on you. Like, how could we have this conversation? You poor thing. How are you going to survive now? No. We could have had a lovely conversation. Everything could have been going great. But I need to go now. I'll leave you in peace, or I'll leave you in peace now. Or maybe this person's hinted that they've got some work they have to get back to at the beginning of the conversation. And then this would be a good closer. So a good way of ending the conversation. Okay, I'll leave you in peace now then, or I'll let you get back to it. So these are not negatives. But for example, in Germany, where I live currently, I used to say this in German, so I translated it, and I used it in my conversations in German. And initially, it was like via like text. Like if I was writing a WhatsApp message or something with a friend, I'll be like, "I'll leave you in peace now," but in German. And I remember one friend of mine was so angry. I was very confused, and she was saying like, "We're supposed to be friends." And I'm like, "Well, I understand this, but I've got to get going." And you mentioned that you were working on something previously, so it's probably best that I get going. And she mentioned that actually in German it's very negative, so it couldn't be anything other than negative. So this was new for me, but of course because I was so used to saying it in English, and no one would think of it as being a negative unless we used it in a very specific way that was sort of obvious that we were annoyed or something. It's quite a general way of, you both sort of mutually agree that one of you were busy at the start or something, so you have to get going at some point, in which case I'll leave you in peace. It's fine. But I had to stop saying this in German because I didn't want to annoy any of my friends to the point where they would no longer want to speak to me. So it's good to be aware of these things. So keep that in mind. We can't just translate greetings or niceties, ways of saying goodbye, etc. And that works both ways. So if there's something that you say very often in your native language, it might not work in English. So be careful. Not too careful. I mean, of course, speaking is better than not speaking, but just keep these things in mind. Okay, so a very, very, very informal way of saying goodbye now. It's I'm gonna have to love you and leave you. So, unsurprisingly, we only use this with friends and family. Um, so, maybe you've had a nice conversation or you've met up again with one another, but the times come, you've got to say goodbye. So you can say, I'm going to have to love you and leave you. So it means that, you love that person, you get on well with that person, but you have to go now. So I'll love you and leave you. Or I'm going to have to love you and leave you. Okay, so going on to a little bit of a more comical goodbye now. This one, for anyone that loves British stereotypes, you might have heard this before in sort of these over the top exaggerated films about like how posh some British people might be. And there's this sort of stereotype where we'd all drink our tea with our pinky finger up in the air, and when we're going, toodles, toodle pip, that sort of thing. We do not say this. We would only use this in jest, as sort of a bit of fun. So I do not recommend anyone use these ones. It might be fun if you did, but probably best not to. But I thought I would include them for those of you that like stereotypes and yeah, I mean, maybe someone that would appreciate these two. And lastly, because we mentioned about certain languages, maybe it's not possible to translate some of these and vice versa. The last one, interestingly, so actually I do two more. So these last two, I'll do at the same time. We can also say adios or ciao. So for any of you familiar, adios would be Spanish and ciao is like Italian. But actually, we sometimes use these. Even people that have no understanding of Spanish or Italian, they couldn't say hello in these languages, but we use these two words to say goodbye. Again, mostly we're friends, but yeah, I mean, these are actually very common. So you probably hear these at some point, especially if you watch TV, film, etc. In English. Okay, so I hope you all enjoyed this episode. So now you can not only start a conversation, but you can hopefully end one too. It was great seeing you all again. Um, Hopefully I'll see you again soon. If you could leave a like and subscribe, that would be amazing. So it really does help, and it's nice for my motivation. So I don't have so many followers, etc. at the moment. So it'd be nice to see more of you, and yeah, I would appreciate that. Anyway, so thank you for viewing. I wish you all a lovely rest of your day, evening, afternoon, or wherever you are. And hopefully see you again soon. Take care and bye for now. Bye.